Thank you. Thank you. Please keep your cameras on so I can see you at least, although you will not be showing. Okay, we got the official notification saying that the meeting is being recorded. Thank you so much, Gunzu. Okay, the session today is about how to live our authentic life. Let's start the event discussion with what is the meaning of being authentic? So would anybody like to tell me what authentic means? I'm gonna, since it's a lovely small group, which is perfect for me, I'm gonna nominate some people. I'm gonna start with my most favorite human being, Mark. What is the meaning of being authentic? You're all my favorites, but I have my most, and my secondest, and my utmost, and my, this is being recorded. Okay, Mark, what is the meaning of being authentic?
Well, as long as I get that recording, that first part of that recording, I should just keep replaying that over and over and over.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, I think, well, you always strike me as being authentic because there's never any airs and graces. It's what we see is what we get with you, and you're very direct and very truthful and honest. And you have to be authentic, you have to uphold your beliefs and carry out those beliefs, even if it means sometimes upsetting other people. Yeah, that's about it, I think.
Okay, very nice, Mark. Thank you. I'm going to challenge you on some points in a minute, but I want
Okay.
to get back to some people. So, Lawrence, my most favorite friend, Lawrence, and I'm going to top up the questions with asking you, maybe Gunzu, can we pause the recording? Don't hit stop. Pause it for a minute. Let me go from here. So the first one is defining our core values. So what are our core values? These are the core values that define who we are and how we want to live. By defining them, we create personal guidelines for all our decisions. For example, I want to know, do I think it's okay if I find the wallet on the ground to pick it up and take it? Okay, if I know that somebody's stealing in my company, do I report them or not? If somebody, for example, is breaking COVID guidelines and spreading the virus, should I report them or not? So these are the kind of principles that I want to know what define me. Now, the core values differ for each person. My core values are different from everybody's on here. And the core values are related to how we decide to live our life and what we allow and what we don't allow. But as human beings, and specifically as parents, it is very important that we have clearly defined and clearly visible core values that we can explain to our kids, right? So when my child comes to me and explains, for example, that in school they saw racism, any example, right? And we know some of these things are rampant all over the world, right? And you could be discriminated against for 6 million reasons. It doesn't matter. When a child comes to me asking about for a topic, a normal topic like human rights or racism, what am I going to say? What are my core values on this? Okay, so each of us should have some sort of compass inside us, which is our core values. What are the things that I think are okay? What are the things that I don't think are okay? And how do I navigate my life inside them? All right, so these are the first things in order for us to be authentic. Have core values. We all have core values, but the only thing is that sometimes they change depending on the circumstances. No, they should not. Okay, so this is the first one. The second one, align with your integrity. Let me just make this a little bit smaller. So what is my integrity? What's the meaning of my integrity here? Okay, so our core values they definitely define our identity, and they define what we think are right or wrong, good or bad. And when we are out of our integrity or out of our core value, we feel stressed. This is one of the things which makes human beings feel very uncomfortable, is when we are not aligned, when what I believe is not what I'm doing, is not what I'm seeing, is not what I'm part of. And we have to be conscious that this happens a lot in real life. Now, the example for this happening in real life, for example, is let's say you work as a sales manager in a company, and every time you start to almost get your sales target, okay, let's say you reach 80 or 90%, what do? They change the target, correct? they reshuffle or reassign or say somebody left, let's reshuffle the sales target, things like this. Now, when this happens, and when I feel that one of my colleagues, for example, was an 80% achiever or 90% achiever, and because of that reshuffle, they became 60%, how does that align with my core value? So I'm not talking about the philosophical stuff we see on the news. I'm talking about real life examples we see every single day in our lives, whether in personal or in business. Okay? Or when one of my friends comes to me and tells me that she is having fights with her mom. And when I listen to the story that she's telling me and she's fighting with her mom, I understand from the story that the mom is right, that the mom, whatever she's saying, is valid. Now, as per my core value, do I tell my friend that she is wrong and her mom is right, or do I keep quiet? All right. So what I want to say is what I'm talking about is more ingrained and more into our daily lives. This isn't about something we read on the wall, mission statement, vision. No, no, no. This is something we deal with every single day in every single situation. And I will tell you when you will know that you are not aligned with your core value and when you are not aligned with your integrity, if you don't feel comfortable. If in any situation, whether it's business or personal, if you're not feeling comfortable, you're not aligned. There's something going on. And that stress and that unalignment or lack of alignment will make you be unauthentic. And the reason it will make you be unauthentic is because you cannot be real in a fake situation, or you cannot be real in a situation which your brain does not accept. Okay? So this is very important. So we have to be observant of how we feel when certain things are happening around us and ask, does it fit? First of all, why do I feel uncomfortable? What's triggering it? And ask yourself, is it because it's not really aligned with my core value? For example, in some countries, you are requested to report if somebody is speaking against the government bad. And it's in many parts of the world, correct or not? So when we see something like this happening, or let me use a more closer example. Do you remember the people who stormed Capitol Hill in the US, right? So later on, they wanted to identify those people from social media videos, right? Because the whole world saw this storming of the Capitol. But then later on, they wanted to identify who were these people exactly. Of course, the ones who took on their videos and put on Facebook, they were the first ones to go. But there were a few which they caught recently. So there was a recent story of a lady who was dating somebody on Tinder. And she met that person on Tinder, and you can look it up from the BBC as well. This is where I read it. So she reported him to the police because on Tinder, when they met, she had the chats and she had screenshots of him telling her, oh, we were at Capitol Hill, we went there, we did this and we did that. And he gave contextual, detailed facts. So he proved it. And she told him, oh, really? And so the whole thing was published, right? And she reported it to the police. Now I'm asking everybody, talk to me here about, in such a situation, about the core values. Talk to me here about the integrity.
Snitch.
No? Sorry? I don't know what that is.
She was a snitch.
It could be. This is your point of view. It could be, right? But I'm just saying that according to her core values, according to her integrity, she felt that she wanted to report him. So these are the kind of things that I'm talking about when we discuss our authenticity and our integrity. So it is in real life. It's something that we have to think about on a daily basis. Okay, let's go back to the slides. I will go back to sharing. So the first one is defining our core values. The second one is our integrity. The third one, recognizing our needs. We cannot be authentic without recognizing our needs. So let's explain this one. Here we go. So we all have very, very basic needs, and we have the famous Maslow's pyramid of basic needs, which is food, obviously, to feel safe, and to feel belonging or to feel part of something, okay? But beyond those, we have something higher. So how do we recognize our higher needs? And which is written here, the emotional, the spiritual needs, and take action to get our needs met. Because when we take actions to have our needs met, we become more authentic. Remember, again, if you're not having your needs met, regardless of what they are, again, we feel uncomfortable. This one's a very nice one. Set and define your boundaries. Should we have boundaries or not? So there have been many debates and many discussions on this, on internations, on several other places. Yes, we should have boundaries because the boundaries dictate how I interact with people and how people interact with me. But part of me having the boundaries also enables me to be authentic. Here we go. This is a very nice sentence. We don't recognize the boundaries until somebody crosses them. Yes. And also, we don't recognize that we need a boundary until somebody goes extra where they shouldn't have gotten. And again, we feel angry, frustrated, control, and we don't exactly understand why. So having boundaries reinforces how we want to be, and it reinforces our needs, and therefore it reinforces our authenticity. So all of the factors are tied together in one way or another. Should we have as many of them as possible? Yes. Do I try to have as many of them as possible? Yes. So I'm gonna just stop here for a minute. And do you remember when I was asking several people here how authentic they are? I asked you how much you were, and I asked if, for example, I'm this is my level out of 10. So now I can go back and think, okay, oops, sorry, where is my slides? So now I can go back to this and think, okay, maybe I need to work on clearly defining my core values. Remember, it doesn't say recognize, it says define. Okay? Or maybe in order for me to be more authentic, I need to work on my integrity, what is right and what is wrong. Or maybe I need to understand my needs more in certain situations. So this isn't about recognizing our needs in general. This is about recognizing our needs in certain instances. Okay? Maybe I need to set my boundaries in certain situations or with certain people. This will definitely help me to be more authentic. Okay, let's see what the next one I need to work on. For example, understanding our emotions. Yes, understanding our emotions and how we act and how we react is part of me being authentic, because our emotions change. They change depending on the situation I'm in, depending on who I'm with, depending on if I'm tired or not, depending on if I've eaten or not, depending on what else, if I've slept well or not, depending on how I feel, if I'm safe or not, because if I don't feel safe, we cannot open up, right? So we need to take time to acknowledge our emotions and find out what triggers us. When we do that, we will be able to manage our reactions much more better and therefore be more authentic. Remember, we cannot be more authentic if we don't trust the person in front of us, if we don't like them, if we don't feel that we can open up to them. Part of being authentic is embracing our skills and talents. And this basically means accepting who we are. What am I about? Okay, so how can I improve me? What am I good at? What am I not good at? What could be an opportunity? How can I make myself more successful? What would make me happier? Okay, maybe in real life, I wanted to be a musician. Maybe in real life, I wanted to be a ballerina. Maybe in real life, I wanted to help the blind. Or maybe in real life, I wanted to rescue animals. What is it that I really want to do? Okay, as a person, what do I want to make use of for my skills and my talents? What can I really do in that context? Okay, adding to that, once we understand our skills and talents, we will then obviously need to understand our strengths and weaknesses. When I understand what I'm good at, I can be very authentic in giving that strength more emphasis. And also, when I understand what I'm weak at, I can manage it so it doesn't become a weakness, so it doesn't become visible, so it doesn't become something that in a situation I will need to hide. Okay? This would also help me to improve myself, as it mentions, to have more maturity and self-esteem. Okay? The next one, stress triggers, happy days. What pushes our buttons? Where are the buttons? How many buttons do I have? Are the buttons pushed by my friends or by my family or all of the above? Or are my buttons pushed at work? And when do they get pushed? So for example, I'm just going to give a random example. Yeah, my buttons are more easily triggered in the morning because in the morning I'm more conscious. In the evening, I'm tired. So sometimes the normal triggers which would trigger me, I let them go, or I'm not too bothered about them. Or if the buttons are pushed, you will see me ignoring them. So I also need to understand at what time am I more vulnerable for my buttons to be pushed in order for me to be provoked. Here we go. Pay attention when you're feeling stressed. Understand it. What is stressing me? What is driving me over the edge? Okay. How can I manage the stress and the thing that triggers it? Because once I understand this, by the way, I'll be able to try and fix it. Okay. Let me stop here for a moment and check that everybody is okay. Does anybody have any questions or everybody's okay so far? Yeah. Everybody's good? Cornelia, you moved inside? Okay, let's carry on. All right. The next ones. Know what motivates you. Yes, I want to know what drives me in a positive sense. What stimulates me? What lightens up my soul? What would make me be happier? What would make me want to be better? Here, excitement. What inspires you? What are you passionate for? All these lovely words which take us to the next level. How can I make them part of my daily life? So I'm going to understand what my triggers are. I'm going to understand what my strengths and weaknesses are. And then I want to know what excites me in the day. Okay, so some of the things, for example, that make me happy during the day, as some of you saw earlier, was me having my afternoon coffee. This is something which makes me happy, for example, okay? And I usually have it when I'm laughing or like I was having with you guys. So what makes us happy? What gives us energy? What gives us purpose? It doesn't have to be big things. It can be small things, okay? What about our limiting beliefs? When we have limiting beliefs, do these stop us from being authentic? Absolutely yes, because the limiting beliefs, so let me explain what they are. The limiting beliefs are some things that I believe exist in me, whether they are true or not true is a separate issue, but they are things I believe exist that limit me. For example, you will never reach this position at work. Or you will never get married again, or you will never be able to buy a house. But how do you know? How can you tell? And because of these limiting beliefs or limiting beliefs, sometimes we don't try. So this is the problem with humans. They are limiting because it's like having invisible handcuffs. When we have these limiting beliefs, which are not mainly, sometimes in our mind, they limit us. They stop us from trying. They stop us from reaching out. They stop us from grasping. They stop us from striving. So here we go. We all have negative beliefs triggered by past situations. Yes, if my dad left my mom, well, as a child, I am going to have a limiting belief that sometimes men get up and go, and therefore I will be afraid of abandonment. I am just giving a random example, okay? And like it says here, they are sometimes from the past, and we unconsciously cling to them. And sometimes we don't discover them until we talk to somebody and say, oh my God, am I like that? Okay, so these beliefs hold us back. They create a false fear of shroud of fear and doubt. And it's like, it's like riding a car and you're pressing the brakes. Every time you move forward or the car is moving forward down a hill and you keep on pressing the brakes. This is the easiest way to give the example of the limiting beliefs. In many cases, the limiting beliefs were there as a child. And in some instances, they are no longer relevant to us. So, for example, if I was growing up in a family and I only had one brother, let's say I have a sister, and all the time my mom was telling me, you should be like your sister. We want you to be like this. Why is she getting good grades and you're not? So my limiting belief comes into my mind unconsciously that I cannot reach higher, that I should always be number two. Or my limiting belief could be maybe that I was ugly. So we know that some moms in some cultures, a lot of cultures around the world, they tell the kids, oh, why do you look like this? Nobody will ever marry you. Why do you look like this? Come on. Whether you need to do X or Y or Z, you will never get married. Okay, in some instances, it could be, for example, you don't know how to cook, right? No, nobody is going to marry you. You don't know how to raise a family. So many things that we hear over the years that sometimes become our beliefs. Of course, what I'm saying could be for men or women. I'm just giving an example, right? General examples. Okay, and these become our limiting beliefs. I was talking to a friend recently, and he is 55 years old, and he was telling me, I can't hold on to a job. So the whole discussion started with, hi, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. I left my job. Okay, not a problem. Why? They were very aggressive. Okay, no problem. What are you going to do next? Long story short, I can't hold on to a job. And I asked him why. Why do you have that limiting belief that you can't hold on to a job? Okay, he said the last 4 jobs have been a big mess. Okay, I get that. And I respect that. And I understand that. And I know he's telling me the truth. But it doesn't mean that you can't get a good job. It doesn't mean that you can't hold a good job. Maybe it's because you were moving from one country to another. Maybe it's because you were moving from one city to another. Maybe they were bad companies. Maybe you were not in the right position. Maybe you didn't have the right skills. Why is it that the limiting belief comes after all of these, so many factors? I've only given like 5 or 6 or 7. Comes that I can't hold on to a job. Do you get the point I'm trying to make here? So sometimes things come onto us from outside us that make us have a limiting belief. The limiting beliefs are sometimes not there. This is the first thing. Number 2, the limiting beliefs are mostly, okay, I'm not a coach, huh? So please take this in that context. The limiting beliefs could be related to a much earlier phase or another era or when I was a different person. Why are they limiting beliefs now? Correct? So I had a discussion with him. No, don't think like that. Don't think that you can't hold a job. They were a bad company, because he's been telling me consistently that they're a bad company, right? And I reminded him, when you told me this and when you told him that, this and that. So he started to see that I had a point, that it was not about him not being able to hold the job. It was because they are genuinely a bad company. So I reminded him, in January, you said this. In February, this event happened. Do you remember when you told me in March? So sometimes the limiting belief is what we believe. Now, what we believe could be because we are telling ourselves that, but in most of the cases, somebody has told it to us. So somebody has planted the seed. And all I'm doing is watering the plant. Got it? Are you guys okay? Everybody's super quiet here. Okay, so I have the seed planted in me, but now the person who planted the seed has passed away or moved on or is in another country or another city or in another era. And I'm sitting there taking the seed and adding water to it, making the plant grow and watch it grow and watch it fruit. Why? The person has long left. The circumstances when that seed was put are no longer there. Plus, don't forget that the limiting belief could be from somebody who also was not seeing clearly. The limiting beliefs are not always 100% correct. Sometimes you get the limiting beliefs put there by somebody who completely misunderstands. Now, the flip side of this is, if all of us believed our limiting beliefs, none of us would try anything. Correct? Because we've all heard, you can't hold a job, or you can't do this, or you can't go there, or so now what? It's a defeatist attitude before we even start. Okay, so the limiting belief has to be looked at with a pinch of salt, knowing that it is a limiting belief and that in most instances, nothing is limiting for us. We can do whatever we want, however we want. Okay? Analyze your problem-solving skills. So part of us being authentic is looking at how we solve problems. Are we able to deal with problems calmly? Or every time something small comes, we get triggered? Do we know how to solve a problem? Do we know that a problem has something which caused it? And do we know that in every instance that there are options? So I'm going to stop here for a second. Every single time we have a problem, there are always options. Imagine if we lived with this concept in our lives. There are always options. There are always options. There are always options. Imagine this. Imagine this for anything in your life, personal, business, anything. There are always options. How freeing and beautiful is that? Right? But sometimes we need people to remind us and to tell us that there are always options. Correct? I don't need somebody to feed the seed for me, which tells me you can't do it. Don't try. You can't hold a job. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not fast enough. You're not whatever. Put ... anything you want. Fill in the space. But how about if all my friends, my close 5, are telling me, you can do it. You've got this. There are always options. Why give up? Try again. There are always options. So this is what I'm talking about. This attitude makes a big difference in how we go about our daily lives. Knowing and thinking and believing that there are always options. And when I'm saying options, I mean good options. I don't mean options where we go in the wrong direction. Okay? Define what is meaningful. Yes. What is relevant for me? What has meaning? Not everything in our lives has the same value. Not everything has the same meaning. What are the things that matter? Okay. And I really want to stress on this because over the past 15 months, ever since coronavirus hit, all of us, not some of us, 100% of us found out what is meaningful. Imagine every single person on the planet above the age of 6 who had a brain found out what is meaningful. How amazing is that? I know the virus has a lot of issues, but how amazing is it that all of us have found what is meaningful in our lives, where we would never have found it, ever. We actually had time to sit down and think and ask ourselves, oh, now it's short. It's not forever. What matters to me? What do I care about? What am I going to focus on? Okay, so this is also something which makes us authentic when we understand what is meaningful for us. I'm not going to ask anybody what's meaningful for them right now because we're recording, but when we stop the recording, we can also talk about this. So we have a little bit of a discussion on it. Okay, the next one, boost your emotional intelligence. Yes, hell yes, this makes a big difference. And emotional intelligence is the ability to understand the emotions of others. And this is part of what makes us comfortable and authentic with some people, because we cannot be authentic with people if we don't understand how they feel. Because part of how they feel is what makes me like them, trust them, and so on and so forth. So learning emotional intelligence is a very nice skill. And there are many videos and many events on how we can grow and harness our emotional intelligence. Improve our love relationships. Yes, improving our love relationships will definitely make us more authentic. So in any relations, it could be family, it could be a romantic relationship. What makes our relationship work? How can I be happier in that relationship so that I can take the actions to remove the to improve the relationship, to make it align with my core values. Heal the pain from your past. Yes, the pain from the past is also part of what triggers us and what stimulates us and what makes us react in certain ways. Okay, so how can we heal from the pain of the past, which is the past trauma? Untreated pain from the past will definitely affect my going forward because it also holds me back. Understand that we all have wounds, not an issue. Don't open the wounds, move past them. Put a plaster on it, move past it. We all have wounds. Challenge your assumptions and beliefs. Yes. Oh my God, this one, I could talk about this particular slide for 10 hours. Why do I believe what I believe? Why do I assume what I assume? How can I believe different and how can I assume different to move and be a better person? Challenge yourself. Ask yourself, what is stopping you? Even when somebody's telling you you can't do it, tell them, why do you think I can't do it? You convince them, not they convince you. However, we shouldn't also be focusing too much on people who tell us we can't do it, okay? So we all have the beliefs and assumptions built in. This comes with the package from our parents, our peers, society, whatever it is. Ask if they are still relevant. Do you think if a child who was told that they are slow in school, let's do this example, okay? Do you think as an adult, that child will grow up thinking they are fast as an adult at work or slow as an adult? I need a thumbs up. If you think, okay, I'm going to ask the question, give a thumbs up if you agree. The child was told in school that they are slow. When they grow up to be an adult, are they going to think they are slow? Put a thumbs up. Or are they going to grow up as an adult thinking they are fast? You see where I'm coming from? Right? But they were a child. Maybe the teacher, do you know something? Do you know that children, do not learn from a teacher they don't like? This is something bloody eye-opening. If a child tells you he doesn't like maths or science because he doesn't like the teacher, that's it. It's not the subjects. Kids and human beings only learn from people they love. Okay, so imagine if a child did not like maths because he didn't like the teacher, because the teacher was aggressive, which is normal. And therefore the teacher was telling the child, the same child, that you're slow. How is that child going to be growing up as an adult? The seed has been planted, correct or not? The child is going to spend the next 30 years planting, watering the plant, that they are slow, all because they didn't like the teacher. Magic. Imagine if we all knew that these are the things where the seeds get planted. Imagine if we all had the ability to unpluck and burn the seeds that were planted inside us. Imagine if we were all blind and could not see the seeds that are inside us, and we all thought we are amazing human beings. Imagine if this is how I thought I was. It's not the reality, but we all wish it was like this, right? Where I can't see anything. I think I should be able to see that I'm this and this and this, but we don't, because unfortunately some people down the line, and by the way, the teacher would be seeing 60 or 50 children every year, right? So the teacher is, every year they get 50 new students. The teacher doesn't remember the child after 10 years, but the child will never forget that the teacher told them they were slow, right or wrong? Tell me, is it right or wrong? Isa, right or wrong? Yeah?
I
Oh, yeah.
remember the kids though, and they still email me years and years later, right? I remember I was teaching here on the island when my child was a baby, right? For 2 years plus. She was 2 when we left. Then went to Saudi, all that. We came back, she was 9, and my students were all around, and one of them said, "Miss, you were so kind to me. Can I take her for an ice cream, please?" I'm going to buy her an ice cream.
Yeah. You know, you raise a very important and nice point, Isabel, because you raised the point that we remember the nice gestures I'm raising the counterpoint that we also remember the bad gestures, right?
Yeah.
So this is what I want to say. Somebody planted a nice seed in you, so now they planted that, and also we can plant bad plants. But what I'm also saying here is the teacher doesn't remember the child. The teacher might have been having a bad day. They might have been having a fight with their husband or wife. They're not going to remember that they told the child they're slow. But somehow the child will live with that belief the rest of their lives until they become an adult. In fact, they're even going to tell their own children that they're slow. Correct or not? Think about it. Think about how damaging words could be. Okay, let's carry on. And so on and so forth. The example was just on a child. It could be in anything in life, by the way. I mean, some people don't have kids. You can also relate it to family. If your mom was telling you this, or your sister was telling you that, or at work, if your boss is telling you something. Okay, so we all have beliefs and assumptions. Acknowledge how you've caused pain. Yes, I don't know how this one we can do, but anyway, have you caused someone pain or offended them? Please, do we need to apologize and make amends? Yeah, this can help me to be more authentic. Notice the words you choose. And this goes back to the example I was using when you tell somebody you're slow or you're not good enough or you'll never make it. You can't hold the job. How many wives have told their husband, you will never get promoted, or you can't hold a good job, or you're not making enough money? Forget the husbands. How many of us as kids have heard the parents saying something like this? Okay, so these are all things which affect us. These become, you know, it's like a grain of rust. You know, when the iron is rusting, it starts off with a tiny bit of rust, right? And then the rust grows and grows and grows and grows until the iron is rusting. You know those iron tubes that they build the buildings with? It starts off with a little bit of rust, right? And before long, the whole thing is rusted. This is how it starts off. It starts off with a tiny little thing, and then it just continues. Okay, so notice the words. Be careful with the words that we say, because they do affect people and they will remain with them, by the way. Yes, this is the example Isabel was using as well. Our words have the power for good and bad. Do we speak out of kindness and acceptance, or do we speak out of judgment and resentment and insecurity? In the times or instances where we cannot speak out of kindness and acceptance, please keep your mouth, please. Because whatever the words we will say out of judgment or resentment or insecurity or because I'm having a bad day, they will stay with that person. The person will not remember our words, but they will remember how we made them feel. So please choose your words carefully. Choose them with kindness. Choose them with care. Choose them with lovingness, and choose them with respect. So, and this goes back to what I was saying. It's not necessarily a good thing for me to be authentic when I'm going to say something bad. Right? If I'm going to say something bad under the pretext of I say it how it is, or this is how I am. And a lot of people are like that, by the way. You get utter nastiness. And they tell you, this is how I am. I tell it how it is. This is my personality. No, please, you don't need to be like that. Please, you don't need to be. You're just using that as an excuse to give nastiness. You don't need to be like that. You don't need to say it as it is. And you don't need to say, this is my personality, and therefore I'm going to be. No, no need. Choose the words very carefully. Understand that the words will have resonating effect much later on. Even when you're not with the person will think about them. The person will turn them around in their brain, and the person will keep on reliving those words later on when the same situation happens. Maybe 2 years later, another situation will happen. That person is going to remember your words. And another 2 years down the line, that person is going to remember your words again. Why? Why do you need to say that? Why do you need to be that person? Okay. Notice and address our fears. What makes us scared? Okay. What is holding us back? Are they genuine fears? Are they relevant? Tune into your body. Okay, these are the lovely fluffy stuff. Yes. Actually, this is not fluffy. Our body sends us messages when we are feeling uncomfortable. And when we are feeling uncomfortable, it means we are not authentic, and something is making us not be authentic, which is something which is making us not align to our value. So we need to be careful with our body. Where be mindful of expressing love. Yes, absolutely. I think that's it. All right. So that was it, everybody. Maybe we can stop the recording, Gunzo, please.